Hello everyone, we continue to mittens. I completed my decreases and sewed one mitten. This is how it turns out. Do not pay attention. The yarn changed there, so everything will tighten later. Now I will show using the example of the second mitten how to make a closure for the stitches here. If you are knitting like me, 2 mittens simultaneously, then after we make the decreases, we need to transfer one mitten to another set of needles and only then close it, because otherwise it won't work. So, we position the needles this way. The yarn comes out from here. 7 stitches on one side and 7 stitches on the other. And what do? We cut the yarn, thread it into the needle. We enter the end of mine. And what will we do? We insert the needle from the outside in on that side. And we drop this stitch. Next, from the inside to the outside. But do not drop it. After that, we move to the other side, also from the outside. We insert the needle inside and drop this stitch. Next, from the inside on this side to the outside. And we do not drop the stitch. We go to the opposite side. From the outside, we insert the needle inside and drop this stitch. And then, from the inside to the outside. Do not drop the stitch. That is, we drop the stitch when we penetrate from the outside in. Pull it tight. So, the yarn came out from that side. And we move to this side. Outside, inside, we work. And we drop. And further, from the inside to the outside. We do not drop. We move to the opposite side, outside, inside. Further, from the inside to the outside. We do not drop. We move to the other side. Thus, we continue constantly. Outside, inside. And we drop this loop. Further, from the inside. To the outside. We do not drop, we tighten the thread well. We move to the opposite side. Outside, inside. We drop. Further, from the inside to the outside. do not drop the loop. That is, we drop only when outside, inside. We move to the opposite side, outside, and we drop. Further, from the inside to the outside. And we move to the other side. Outside, inside. And we drop. Further, on the same side, from the inside to the outside. We do not drop. We move to this side, outside, inside. And we drop this loop. Further, from the inside to the outside. We do not drop. We switch to the reverse needle, outside, inside. We drop. And we pull from inside, outside. We do not drop. We switch to the needle that is closer. We introduce the needle from outside, inside. And we drop this stitch. And then we pull from inside. Look, outside it goes right here. We have 2 stitches left. We introduce it just like we did before, from outside, inside. And we drop this stitch. Just like that. There's nowhere to pull out. So we take this side and pull from outside, inside. Just like that. And we take out the needle. We tighten the thread. Pull it. We have a little knot here. Here, we hide the thread down right here. We poke it in. Here's the knot on the needle. And we bring it to the wrong side. We pull. Like this it turned out. It turns out, look, our front side, which we knitted on the sides. On one of the sides, it's inside, right here. And these are the decreases, and these are the decreases. This is how the mitten looks. Now let's start working on our finger. I will show on the example of a men's mitten. So, the stitches we had on the thread, we transfer back to the needles. To the needles with which we knitted the main fabric of the little hat. And look how I transferred it. I left 1 stitch on each needle and all the others on the cables. We will now cast on 4 more stitches. In the end, there will be 6 on this side, and here I left 7 stitches. That is, we need to account for the fact that we will cast on 4 more stitches, and we should have approximately the same number of stitches on the cable and on the needle. So we take the yarn, and I will use a hook. If you will use the needle to pick up and cast on new stitches, then please cast on with the needles. So, on this side, I will cast on 2 stitches. And on this side, 2 stitches. You should try to insert it in such a way that we have a smaller hole here, so that later our holes near the finger do not show. Leave the tail a bit longer so that later, if we have any holes left here, we can use the yarn to cover them. And I will cast on the second stitch right here. And from the other side, we also cast on 2 stitches. And likewise, well, we have cast on 4 stitches. This was the 5th one. Next, we will knit simply in the round with knit stitches through the front loop until we need to decrease for the finger. These stitches should be knitted as tightly as possible. So, that's it, we knit a knit stitch. At the beginning of knitting, this tail is pulled tight so everything is snug. We move to the other side. These stitches that are not cast on, which we try to knit with the same tightness as we knitted the main fabric, so that the transition is not particularly visible. Next, we knit with knit stitches for now. We will keep this little tail hidden inside, because we periodically pull it. Let it be on top. Later, we will move it inside the mitten. That's it. These are our cast-on stitches. We will knit them as knit stitches, and we continue to knit until we reach our decreases. I have knitted 18 rows straight. In the women's mitten, I knitted 16 rows straight. I was short by about ½ centimeter or less, just a little bit to reach the necessary finger size. And now we need to make the decreases. We will knit 2 stitches together knitwise through the front loop. This will give us a right-leaning decrease, right? That is, we will knit every 2 stitches together through the front loop. And in this way, we will decrease until we have 6 stitches remaining on the needles. We have 6 stitches left. 3 stitches on one needle, 3 on the other. Here, the yarn comes out from here. And I cut it. I threaded it into the needle, and we will close it just like we closed the mitten itself. That is, we insert the needle inside from the outside and slip it off. Next, from the inside to the outside, we do not slip it off. We move to the other side, from the outside to the inside. We slip it off, and from the inside to the outside. This is how we close it until we completely close our finger. We pull the yarn tight and hide it under a knot. Right down here we insert it inside. Pull tight. That's it. Our finger is ready. We will hide all the yarns later. So, the mittens are ready. Now, let's start knitting a large common mitten. So, we knit the larger mitten on one set of needles. That is, we start knitting just like we did originally. In other words, we need to knit these 2 parts, as if we are knitting 2 mittens separately. As usual, I am using size 3.5 needles. I cast on 34 stitches for one mitten from one ball, and 34 stitches for the second mitten from another ball. Then I knitted 11 rows of 1 by 1 ribbing, or 4.5 centimeters. Next, 3 rows with pink and blue yarn, then 4 rows of grey, and 2 rows of pink and blue. After that, I knitted 4 rows of grey ribbing. Then, I switched to size 4.25 needles. I began knitting in stockinette stitch. Do not forget that we knit the first row of pearls through the back loop. Then we start knitting in stockinette stitch. I knitted 4 rows in stockinette stitch. Next, I knitted 2 rows in stockinette stitch with pink and blue yarn. Here we do not make any increases, since when we knitted the regular mitten, we had already switched to a different color. Here we made increases for the finger. Here, however, we make no increases. And knit straight with 34 stitches. That's 2 rows with pink and 2 rows with blue yarn, then 1 row with grey yarn. I knitted 34 stitches for one mitten and 34 stitches for the second. So we started these 2 mittens separately. After we knitted 1 row straight with grey yarn, we make the join, then we simply knit with grey yarn in stockinette stitch without any increases. 34 stitches for one mitten and 34 stitches for the second mitten. That gives us 68 stitches. It will be in each row. So we start knitting the blue men's mitten, yes. And we take the yarn already from the pink from the women's mitten. That is, we will knit from one ball, in my case, that's from the women's mitten. Yarn from the men's mitten. We just do not touch it. This is our second row. We will change colors. And I will knit the first stitch into the stitch below the knit stitch. We knit with knit stitches. One side of the man's mitten has been knitted. We turn our work. We knit the reverse side of the man's mitten. We have knitted now this same yarn, which was coming from our first mitten. Most of the women's mitten, so we will just knit in a circle with the same yarn. From one ball, and this yarn, which we had from the man's mitten. We will simply cut it, and then hide it. The second row will change colors to the stitch below. And we knit a knit stitch. Well, as usual, right? And then we continue knitting with knit stitches. We turn. We knit the reverse side of the women's mitten. Here we have reached the connection point, and we simply continue knitting the second row in a circle. This means we just have a connection. Here's where we change the yarn, and these stitches will then be tightened. So we just knit in a circle. And you can place a marker too. Count later how many rows we have knitted, although from the center we can then count how many rows have been knitted. So, I have knitted 36 rows with the grey yarn. Starting from this point, and it turns out, I have about 4 centimeters left to reach the desired length of the mitten. I compare these mittens with a finished mitten. A women's one, which is smaller, so I need to achieve a length roughly the same as this finished women's mitten. This means I have about 4 centimeters left. Which will be around 10 rows, by the way, if we compare with the gauge. The larger mitten is knitted more loosely for some reason, therefore, I needed to knit fewer rows to get the desired length. Here I have knitted 36 rows, but if we count according to the regular mitten, I have knitted 39 rows here. This is how my density changes. So keep an eye on that too. So, we will decrease in the same way as we did in the mitten. I won't show this again, and we will keep decreasing until we have 14 stitches left on each needle. After that, we will close it using a thread and needle. Just like we closed our mitten. I won't show all of that. So friends, let's knit. And this decrease should take 4 centimeters, by the way. We don't use any color changes for the thread here. So we don't have those stripes here anymore. Just knit with gray yarn, by the way. About this moment, after we connect 2 mittens into one, a little hole forms here. We simply sew this hole with gray yarn, so that everything looks whole and nice. So we finished knitting and closed our mitten. Now we just need to embroider hearts and attach 2 small pom-poms here. So I crocheted a chain of air stitches. Here's the link for those who don't know. And if you're not good with a hook, you can just braid a cord. But that will take a bit longer. So let's knit a chain of air stitches of the required length. In 2 colors, right? And now I will show how I attach it. So, I use pins to arrange the hearts approximately where I want them. Then with a thread and needle of the same color, I simply insert it from the top, that is, into one stitch. I catch the gray thread and bring it out in the center of the next or one stitch over. Make sure we don't catch the thread from behind. And then go into the next stitch from top to bottom. We catch the gray thread and bring it out somewhere in the center. We check to ensure we do not catch the opposite side of the mitten from behind, thus carefully. We simply stitch 2 hearts. After we sew these 2 hearts, we make 2 pom-poms, 1 pink and 1 blue. Here's a little tip for those who do not know how to make pom-poms with their hands. We attach them right here, to these tails. That is, we leave a little bit of thread ends at the bottom, so that later, by fraying the threads here, we can tie the pom-pom here. This is the finished set I have. Thank you for watching. I hope you managed to do everything. If you have any questions, please ask in the comments. Subscribe and give likes. And we will meet again very soon. Love one another. Goodbye, everyone.